Sally, I hear something. Stop. Stop.
What's up, Vault Dwellers? Dan here. Tobe Hooper, he died in 2017. And I remember exactly where I was when I heard the news. I was in my car and I just sat there in my driveway for like 10 minutes because the man terrified me personally as a child in ways I am still finding new room to be upset about. So here's what we're going to do today. We're ranking 11 of Tobe Hooper's feature films, all from before 1999. Yeah, that's where I'm stopping because this is Retro Vault, so just deal with it, okay? Oh, and we're ranking it on 3 different things. How badass the movies were, how badly they scared me personally, and what they did to horror as a whole. This is not a film studies lecture, this is personal. This is me sitting on my childhood bedroom floor at 11 p.m. at night with a VHS tape I absolutely wasn't supposed to have, telling you which ones made me check under my bed for a frickin' killer clown and which ones made me fall asleep during the 3rd act. All right, we're starting from number 11 to the big one. Let's go. Okay, we're going to get started with Night Terrors from 1993, and I really need you to understand that I wanted to love this movie so badly. I mean, it had Robert Englund playing Marquis Sadat and his modern-day descendant, who runs this like sadomasochist cult in Alexandria, Egypt, and it's corrupting this innocent American girl who came to visit her archaeologist father.
Listen to me, you little whore. I have no idea how I'm going to kill you.
I mean, on paper, this is a good film, right? It sounds deranged, it sounds gorgeous, it's like a Ken Russell style, absolute nightmare of a film. And it had Tobe Hooper directing it. But then, you press play. And when I watched this for the first time, I rented it from the video store specifically because Hooper's name was on the box in big old letters, and I was ready. I mean, I had snacks ready. And then I sat through like 2 hours of what I can only describe as a film that cannot decide what it wants to be, and so it became like nothing in particular. The horror just never even shows up in force. There is some eroticism, kinda, but it barely like unpacks its bags. Englund, I mean, he's doing his best, right, in this dual role, but he deserved a much better movie around it. But you can clearly tell he's trying.
I take no responsibility for the sins of my ancestors. I had the misfortune of belonging to an ever-degenerating aristocracy. So, what do you think of the old rascal?
But even he can't save a script that was apparently rewritten 4 times before filming, and then again during filming. After the original director, he just quit because the whole production relocated from Egypt to Tel Aviv, and everything, it just changed. Hooper got brought in as a salvage job because Englund specifically wanted to work with him and just threatened to walk otherwise. This is not a recipe for a coherent film. I love Tobe Hooper, but this is number 11. It's not his fault. It was on fire when he got there.
Imagine your finger in the flame of a candle. Now multiply that pain 1,000-fold. These are the flames of hell. Repent before it's too late.
Priest, I will see you in hell.
All right, number 10 is The Mangler from 1995, and it's about a demonically possessed industrial laundry press that eats people. Look, and I'm not making fun of this premise. I love the premise. I used to have Stephen King's Night Shift audiobook on tape when I was super young, and I listened to this story all the time. The thing about the Mangler, though, is that Hooper, he portrays this machine, this massive, hissing, steam-belching iron monster with love and visual menace. There are shots of the gears and chains working. I mean, this thing worked properly. He loved it, right? And then you even got Robert Englund. He's the factory owner who comes hobbling in on leg braces and some kind of device that was apparently supposed to be a back brace, but kind of looks like something from a medieval torture dungeon. And the film becomes just something else entirely. He is doing a full-on goblin performance in this thing. His eyes are rolling, voice is cracking. He's operating at 14 on a dial that goes to 10.
Goddamn machine tried to kill me!
Breaking and entering is a serious crime. Officer! Perhaps I should have you arrested,
Yeah, okay, hey, have me...
He only had 2 weeks available in a 6-week production schedule, so he shot most of the scenes separately from everyone else. You are watching a man who was essentially doing a long-distance acting collaboration with a laundry machine. And it shows. And, it's actually kind of incredible. I saw this one in the cinemas, I think in 1995. I was in my 20s. I'd been drinking with my friends beforehand. The audience, they just started laughing during the third act, and I was laughing with them. And honestly, you know what? That's not the worst night I've ever had at a movie. It's not scary. And it's never boring. I mean, Ted Levine as a detective, Buffalo Bill, he does his absolute level best to act against a machine. And there is something almost noble in that attempt. It's number 10 on the list, but I totally watch it again. Okay, Spontaneous Combustion, 1990. And this one, it breaks my heart just a little bit. And let me tell you why. So Brad Dourif plays a man named Sam, and he discovers that his parents were used as nuclear test subjects by the US military back in 1955, and that resulted in radiation that gave him pyrokinesis, which means he sets things on fire with his mind. So when he gets angry, which happens a lot because his entire life turns out to have been a government-arranged lie, he starts combusting. This is the concept, and it's wonderful.
We should have flushed you when we had a chance. You're a freak!
And then the producers apparently got involved, and they just dismantled whatever Hooper was building and replaced it with something that doesn't quite know what the hell it is. So Brad, he gave this interview to Fangoria magazine where he basically said that the producers, they destroyed the whole film. He said he played his whole heart out in scenes, but the movie, it just doesn't make sense. It's almost funny. And as a matter of fact, the better his acting was in some of the later scenes, the funnier the film was. That's a devastating quote, and also a completely accurate description when you watch it.
You should thank me.
Thank you.
By all rights, you should never have been born. And if it wasn't for me, you never would have been.
Brad, he really is giving it all in this. And I remember thinking, this man is trying. Whatever's going wrong around him, he's in there fighting the fight. The fire effects, they're great. The first act is awesome. John Landis has a cameo eating a Twinkie. It's number 9. Basically, you watch this movie for Brad.
I thought you were my friend. As you can see, I'm not all here.
I'm so sorry, Sam. Get back!
Eggshells from 1969. And did you know this is Tobe Hooper's first film? And I don't think anybody's even seen it. For a long time, you couldn't see it because it was considered completely lost. It only played 50 times in Texas when it came out. It made zero money and then just vanished for decades. Finally, it was restored and it was screened at South by Southwest back in 2009, and he was there in the audience. This is a psychedelic experimental film about hippies living in a commune house in Austin, Texas, who slowly become aware of something living in their basement. Hooper described it as a crypto-embryonic hyper-electric presence down there. And when he said that, I could not tell if he was being profound or if he had just smoked something remarkable. It's not a horror film. It's kind of closer to a student art project made by somebody who had a lot of feelings about Vietnam. But you know what matters here? That after Eggshell died without a trace, Hooper was convinced his film career was basically finished before it started. He was just done. And then a friend said, "You need to go see this new horror film, Night of the Living Dead." And after Hooper went, he came out of that cinema and said to just anybody who would listen, "I can do that." And then he called his friend Kim Henkel, and they sat down and wrote the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love that origin story. I love the idea of a young guy watching Romero and just something clicks. 5 years later, he'd make one of the scariest films in history. But first, he made this weird, wonderful, beautiful, psychedelic thing in Austin with his friends, and it was the thing that he had to get out of his system first. Invaders from Mars, 1986. And I think I saw this when I was about 12 years old, alone in the living room while my parents were out. And I need to tell you about that one specific scene that's been lodged in my brain for 40 years. The teacher, Mrs. McKelch. She was possessed by the Martians, pulls out a live frog, and puts it in her mouth and starts chewing. And she swallowed it. And that specific image in that specific movie was presented to my 12-year-old self as a completely normal Saturday afternoon programming. And something in my head went sideways, and it's never really fully come back.
David Gardner! I'll get you!
This was a remake of the beloved 1953 science fiction film, and where most remakes try to make the original material scarier or more sophisticated, Hooper, he did something stranger and just way more interesting. He tried to recreate what it felt like to watch one of those old 1950s B movies as a kid. The whole film is shot at child height. And the aliens, they look like these giant, ridiculous potato head creatures with mouths the size of Volkswagens.
You see, they do understand me.
Well, the school nurse, she believes the kid, and she's played by Karen Black, and the kid is actually her real life son. So that totally explains their absolute natural chemistry in a way that no casting director could have manufactured it.
We got to stop them. How? They're everywhere. Let's just get the hell out of this crazy crazy place.
No, we have to find my mom and dad.
We're not going back there alone, David.
This movie is one of the top 10 most disturbing scenes of my lifetime. All right, it's time for some fun with Funhouse from 1981. And this is about 4 teenagers who sneak into a traveling carnival's funhouse. And they decide, because, they're teenagers and teenagers are catastrophically stupid, to spend the night after it closes. And guess what? They witness a murder.
Leave me alone or I'll put a curse on you and your own lot!
And then they discover the carnival's deformed employee, who up until this point had been wearing a Frankenstein mask and has a face that is somehow significantly worse than a Frankenstein mask. And then the carnival's owner, a man played by Kevin Conway in one of the great sneering villain performances of the decade, starts hunting them down through the guts of the Funhouse ride.
Oh, you're real tough, ain't you, son? Come on! Come on!
And as a kid, carnivals, they already scared me, and not in a fun way. In a, this feels like a place where normal rules don't apply type of way, right? The peeling paint, the mechanical laughing clown at the entrance, the rides that look like they've been bolted together by someone who didn't care if they stayed bolted together. And Hooper, he totally understood the unease completely. He spends the whole first half of this film just luxuriating in the atmosphere of a sleazy traveling carnival, and it's gorgeous, and it's wrong, and deeply uncomfortable in a way that gets under your skin before anything bad even happens.
The little duck's orange feet just hopping around.
This was Hooper's first big studio picture, because, Universal made it. And Gene Siskel, he was one of the few critics who actually got it at the time. He listed this as one of his guilty pleasures years later. But more importantly, this was a film that convinced people at MGM that Hooper, he had the range to direct a proper studio horror picture. And that's how we got Poltergeist, because of Funhouse. So the next time someone dismisses this film, you can go tell them that. Okay, Eaten Alive, 1976. This is Tobe Hooper's follow-up to Texas Chainsaw, and this was the film that proved to me, personally and definitively, that this man was operating on a completely different frequency to every other horror director working at the time.
Stop it. Stop it. Hey, stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
The whole thing was shot on a soundstage in Hollywood, and not in a swamp, with a big pool where the swamp was. And that decision, choosing artificial over the real, the theatrical over the documentary, is a thing that makes Eaten Alive into something I cannot describe to people who haven't seen it. The walls, they wobble slightly. The fog is obviously a machine, right? And the crocodile that lives in the swamp besides the Starlight Hotel, who eats the guests in absolutely transparently and defiantly fake ways. Yet somehow this makes the whole thing just way more unsettling, not less. It's like watching someone describe a nightmare in real time. Neville Brand, He plays Judd. He's the hotel owner, and we need to say something about this performance because I don't think it gets talked about enough. He is doing something just wild in this movie. He snorts headache powder to get high while muttering to himself constantly. He kills people with just random tools like pitchforks or whatever's nearby, and he laughs at moments that just are not funny. He's playing a man whose wiring has been scrambled just beyond repair, and Bran, he commits to it so completely. There are moments where I couldn't tell if the discomfort I felt was horror or like secondhand embarrassment.
Get off my property!
Oh, look at that. Done ruffled his feathers.
Hi, I'm Lynette. You're cute. Anybody ever tell you that?
I said get. I won't have none of it. Now get out of here.
Ain't he cute, Buck?
And again, Robert Englund, he's in this as a character named Buck who likes to do stuff, and he was a real young actor back then. And after this, he goes on to become Freddy Krueger, right? Marilyn Burns, she's back from Texas Chainsaw, screaming through everything. This movie is a great, strange, overlooked film and is such a great horror, dreamlike experience. Okay, all right, we got to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 from '86. And this is the one that most audiences just absolutely hated. And you know what? They were completely wrong about this. And I know that because I was one of those audiences, and it took me like 30 years to come around to the correct opinion. Bear with me here. When I rented this, I had to be like sneaky about it because it was released unrated after the MPAA gave it an X rating. And this was not the sequel that I wanted. Where was the documentary dread? Where was the suffocating atmosphere? I mean, we get Dennis Hopper buying chainsaws in a hardware store while looking just absolutely insane.
Oh, my kid banana.
We get Chop Chop cackling about dead bodies like he's the funniest person at his own party.
Sir, Bubba's got a girlfriend. 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 Bubba's got a...
We get this DJ named Stretch being chased to an underground amusement park. We even get Leatherface having what I can only describe as feelings for Stretch, expressing them via chainsaw. And me sitting there thinking, this is like the worst movie I have ever seen. But then I watched it like 20 years later, and I finally got it. Hooper was deliberately detonating everything about the original. By '86, the gritty rural slasher, it had been copied so many times, it became a genre cliche. So he went the opposite direction. Bright colors, dark comedy, and satire of the exact 1980s excess he was surrounded by. The Sawyer family now runs a catering business. Their chili wins competitions, and nobody asks questions. That's the joke. And you know what? It's a good joke.
You've got to tell the secret of that fabulously tasty chili.
No secret. It's the meat. Don't skimp on the meat.
Tom Savini's effects, they're actually extraordinary. That opening scene with the frat boys getting chainsawed through the roof of their car on the highway bridge, it's as scary as it is funny as anything Hooper ever put on screen. This is one of the greatest misunderstood sequels ever made. Lifeforce, 1985, a Canon film that gave Tobe Hooper $25 million and said, hey, go make whatever you want. And he looked at all that money and all that creative freedom, and he made a film about naked space vampires turning London into a zombie apocalypse. And I so respect that decision so profoundly that I have difficulty putting this into words. This is a film where a European space shuttle mission to Halley's Comet discovers a massive alien vessel hidden inside the comet's comma. And inside this vessel, there are hundreds of giant bat creatures and 3 humanoid figures in glass coffins. 2 men and 1 woman. And that woman, played by French actress Mathilde May, she's like barely dressed for the entirety of the whole film. And I will tell you that was one of the most arresting and just deeply unsettling images I had seen in the film. Not because of the nudity, but because of the way Hooper directed her. She walks through like every scene like gravity is just a suggestion.
Come on. Come to me. Come to Daddy. Come on.
She doesn't speak for most of the film, and when she looks at people, something in them just breaks. She is just terrifying in a way that film never fully explains, and really, it never needs to. Patrick Stewart, he gets possessed by her, and he screams in ways that no amount of Shakespeare training could have prepared him for.
What are you doing?
Stay where you are.
He's sick. Samson, help us. I can't explain now.
The film bombed at the box office. The American distributor cut like 50 minutes out of it because they thought it was just too weird. And you know what? They're not wrong, but they were wrong to cut it. The full international version is a masterpiece of beautiful, expensive, and insane B-movie style filmmaking. It's Hammer horror if Hammer had real money and a death wish. I love it completely, and it scares me every time I see it. All right, let's talk about the movie that terrified my whole generation, Poltergeist from 1982. I was like 8 years old when this thing came out, and someone, and I'm not naming names, but I am looking at my older sister very hard right now, who let me watch this, and I did not sleep properly for like 6 weeks. You know what got me? It's that damn tree. That scene with a tree outside his bedroom. It comes alive in a storm and just crashes through the glass and grabs him and tries to pull him outside. I watched that scene, and the next morning I looked at all but dozens of trees in our backyard with completely different eyes. And yeah, I know. The whole debate about Spielberg's involvement and whether Hooper was the real director. Honestly, at this point, I don't really give a shit whose signature is on the painting. I care that I cannot look at a clown doll without my skin crawling, and that is the work of this film specifically. Because that's the genius of Poltergeist. It didn't even go after the adults. It went after children's fears directly. Clowns under beds, killer trees, closets with lights under the door, and static on the television. That house, it was supposed to be safe. The parents, they're supposed to protect you. And the bedroom, that's supposed to be your refuge. And it all turned against him. That is a more sophisticated understanding of childhood terror than most horror directors ever manage. Heather O'Rourke as Carol Ann with the infamous "They're here" is one of the great moments in horror because you hear it and something in your chest just drops. this film, they even used real skeletons in the production because they were cheaper than plastic ones. This is top 2, easy. Okay, it's a sigh of relief. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. It's the obvious number 1, the one and only, the film that broke everything wide open. You know, I want to talk about the first time I saw this thing, because I think the first time you see this film is the only time it can do what it did to you. I put it on late at night with the sound low, and for the first 30 minutes I thought, okay, you know, this is fine. It's just some kids driving around in a van, and it's a lot slower than I expected. What's the big deal? And then that door slides open, Leatherface whacks that kid in the second half, and just something happened inside of me. I wasn't watching a movie anymore. I was in it. And the only way I can describe what Tobe Hooper accomplished with this film is he made something that breaks through the screen and grabs you by the collar and does not let go until the end credits. The sound design alone, like the metallic scraping, the buzzing, and the grinding industrial noise that runs underneath everything. It just gets into your body in a way that no amount of gore could manage. You know, the performances, they're not that polished, right? They're just raw and real and on the edge of falling apart. Gunnar Hansen wearing that mask, it was actually made from animal hides that was decomposing in the sun. The discomfort was real and the film captured it. Hooper made this thing for $140,000. He was 30 years old, and he had never made a studio film before. He was working with people from the Texas community theater scene and a crew that barely had enough equipment. And he made a film that invented the modern slasher. You know, mass killer, power tools, final girl, and the inescapable nightmare. And that has never once lost its power in the 50 years since. People watching this expect tons of gore and they're surprised by how little blood is actually on screen. Hooper was trying to get a PG rating, but what he got instead was something so atmospherically terrifying that the absence of explicit violence, it really didn't matter.
What do you want?
No, there's no need to do that. Nobody's gonna hurt you.
After watching this forever ago, I turned all the lights on in my house, checked the locks, and I sat in the kitchen for an hour. I've watched this probably 30 times since then. It still gets me. It always will. It's number 1. End of conversation. You know, there's something I thought about a lot since Hooper died in 2017, and it's basically this. The man never really got credit for being funny. People focus on the violence, the scares, and the darkness. Yeah, and I know that's all real, right? But if you actually watch these films, there's this dark, strange, almost affectionate humor running through all of them. Cannibal families selling their victims as chili. Space vampires kicking off a London apocalypse because an astronaut couldn't keep his hands to himself. Dennis Hopper buying 2 chainsaws like they're groceries. Tobe Hooper loved these movies. You could feel it in every frame. He wasn't trying to gross you out to traumatize you for the sake of it. He was trying to show you the weird, scary, beautiful underbelly of America and make you laugh and scream in equal measures. And hey, before you go, you should check out these other videos on horror if that's your thing. And keep it weird, folks.
You already asked me that, and I told you no.
See, that finger looks like you burned it lighting a cigarette.
That's it. That's it.